Hello and welcome to a look at Decathlon for the Commodore 64, or should I say Activision's Decathlon, a game that, oddly enough, was released by Activision. Decathlon even, of course, is a multi-event competition spanning 10 different events to be exact, in which the competitors have to score as many points as they can by having a good performance in the individual events. And once the entire competition has been completed, whoever's got the most points wins. The 10 events, in completely random order, likely, is a 100-meter sprint, dash, race, whatever, um, long jump, short put, discus, javelin, high jump, pole vault, 400-meter race, 110-meter hurdles, and finishing off with the 1500-meter race. For most parts, the competitors in Decathlon cannot measure up to the competitors in the individual events. But of course, having the flexibility, versatility, and skill to be competitive in 10 different events is where the true showcase of skill lies. Because of course, there's a huge difference between running very, very fast and running very, very tactical and jumping long and jumping high and doing pole vaulting and things like that. So the demand on the competitors in the real life event is arguably significantly higher than it is for any competitor in any of the individual events. Multi-event sports games has been a thing that's been popular in periods of time where you suddenly got a whack load of them in short succession and then didn't see a multi-event sports game for years, and then suddenly there was a handful showing up randomly. Most noticeable, of course, would likely be the arcade conversion track and field. Um, Obviously, Epic's summer games and whatever else games they made, which was an attempt at making a spectacular sport multi-event game thing for the time, of course. I mean, compared to modern day, it would be simplistic, but back then they were very, very special, and there was made a lot of effort out of presentation, all that kind of stuff. Later down the line, Ocean tried to reinvigorate the genre with games like Daily Thompson's Super Test and things like that, but don't think that was an overly successful enterprise. But irrelevant. Why do I mention those games when I'm actually showcasing Decathlon? There's a very good reason for that, and that is because of the time this game was released. Bearing in mind the Commodore released the Commodore 64 in 1983, and this game is a game from 1983/84. So it would have been one of the earlier games for the Commodore 64, and undoubtedly the first multi-event game or sports game for that system. So let us cover the technical things and finish off talking about the game in general. From a graphical point of view, if you consider the age of this game, it is surprisingly good. You can easily identify that the athletes you are in control of are athletes, and you can easily identify the scenario of being in a stadium of some description, and of course the different run-ups and things like that for the different events seems appropriately accurate. Maybe not spot on, but you know what? It serves the illusion it needs to serve, and as such, I've especially considering the age of this game, I think the graphical side is very good. Sound effects are a bit sparse, and I mean, you can only do so much without making it annoying in a game of this type. But of course, most enjoyable, I suppose, I don't know, is it a sound effect or is it a jingle or whatever? Once you score over 1,000 points in any event, you will get a little congratulatory jingle thing, which is a nice little touch and is very, very enjoyable and actually feels rewarding even to this day. I discovered that while playing this particular game. The music, there's only the title music that plays at the beginning once you have loaded up the game first time, and then once you have completed the entire uh, series of events. It's Summer Olympiad, Summer Olympics, whatever, inspired, and yeah, I can take it or leave it. It's not particularly special. It's nothing particularly bad either. Yeah, but the controls, of course, is where this game and many games following it had a somewhat unique twist because, of course, simulating running, you could do that by just hammering the fire button, but for some bizarre reason, the Commodore 64 and other systems of that era, and even translated into the Amiga and other home computers, they only used one fire button joysticks, and it wasn't because the computers weren't capable of it, because they used the DB9 port like any other system, Sega's, Nintendo's, and other systems used. And they could easily handle multiple fire buttons, but it was never used for the systems for whatever reason. So, having to be able to use the fire button to do jumps and throwing a javelin and things like that, of course, they had to come up with another control scheme. And the control scheme they came up with was to waggle your joystick from side to side, simulating a left and right leg. And of course, you can imagine that the faster you waggle, the faster your competitor would run up to whatever he was doing, whether it was sprinting or things like that. The downside to that control scheme was the fact that a lot of joysticks did not like that abuse. Commodore themselves had a bundle at one point where you could buy a Commodore 64 with a data set, the tape deck thing, and a Commodore joystick. And from personal experience, I can confirm that that particular joystick survived about 40 seconds of playing this game. The term joystick killer was related to these kind of games, and as far as I can tell, this was the first one of its kind. And something tells me that a lot of gamers back then evaluated the quality of their joystick based on whether it could survive playing these kind of games. The controls are spot on, they are responsive, everything feels natural. Playing these games for a few hours will make you very, very tired because it's quite draining, but everything is responding the way you want them to, and no delay, no lag, nothing of any kind. This game can be played with 1 to 4 players. And if you play this by yourself, you are likely going to play it once or twice and not really look at it again. But playing it with other people is definitely enhancing both the enjoyment of the game and also the longevity of it. Because there's a certain something about being better than your friends and family members or whatever else, and just have a few laughs and a good time playing with other people. And these kind of games were definitely designed with that togetherness in mind. This game doesn't have any whistles and bells that later games of the type had. Its presentation is barebone, but its age considered, it is a surprisingly good game. And if you have someone to play with, then it can be very, very enjoyable, even though it can be slightly costly in joysticks unless you invest in something of a decent quality. On that note, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye for now.